Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk live on YouTube and StreamYard.com. It is Golan F. Michael Fletcher, alongside Anthony Florio and Michael Bullock. We have ourselves a crazy night here with us. Smackdown Live, obviously, along with AEW Rampage that just concluded. Battle of the Belts is going on right now. Monday night, Anthony Florio will have that for you. The recap of the Battle of the Belts. That'll be Monday night on Ridiculously Raw. Crazy news coming out of WWE today. As many of you guys know, Vince McMahon is back with the company. He has regained the power and is now once again chairman of the board for WWE. And I know this is going to really be very interesting now, because now we're wondering, this more on the business, not creative, but business. Which, if that's the case, fine, no problems, not an issue. The reason why he came back was basically he wanted it to either sell WWE or help out with the negotiations as it pertains to the TV contracts with Fox and NBC Universal that coincides, that owns Monday Night Raw on the USA Network and NXT on Tuesday nights. That's on the USA Network. Of course, Fox has the exclusive rights to SmackDown Live on Fridays. Well, if that's the case, all right. But I can now confirm, and this news has broken out, that there's 3 possible suitors that wants to buy WWE outright. One is NBC Universal. The other is the Fox Television Network. And the third is the Disney Corporation that owns ABC and, more importantly, ESPN. This has been confirmed by multiple sources within the last hour. So, with the uncertainty of WWE, and more importantly, with this news coming out, this makes things very interesting as far as the landscape goes in 2023. Just when we thought that the McMahon saga was over, he comes back in, does a power play, and now he's back as chairman of the board. However, as you know, as of now, there is no intentions of him taking back creative, which means Triple H is still in control of creative forces, along with Shawn Michaels, and I believe he doesn't have any intentions of getting back into creative. If that is the case, by all means, Vince, sell the company or do whatever you want to do it. And there's even talk about taking the company off public and going back to a private entity. If you want to do that, by all means, do whatever your heart desires. Just do not go back to creative forces, because right now, WWE is running a very good ship, and you don't want to wreck it. Do not wreck it, because right now, ratings-wise, is at an all-time high for WWE right now. Attendance is at an all-time high for WWE right now. As a matter of fact, they are almost up to 100,000 tickets sold for WrestleMania. Almost 100,000 completely sold for WrestleMania. That's unheard of in the history of WWE, that they might be actually able to pull off 100,000. And this is actually paying tickets. This is not what they did in the past by bloating the numbers. No, you might actually have 100,000 actual tickets sold for the biggest event of the year, WrestleMania. Oh, by the way, SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles, California, this year. But before we get into all that, and on top of that, with the big announcement that Money in the Bank is going to be held at the O2 Arena in London, England, I mean, that was a big announcement, and that had everybody excited to know that they're coming to London. You know the Euros love their WWE, and especially in London, that's the heart of their that's one of their biggest arenas, the heart of London, right in the middle, right by where the River Thames are and by where Big Ben is. Oh my goodness. That is going to be a monster show, to say the very least, and I cannot wait for them to do it. So, we have a lot to talk about, obviously, and we will start it off, as usual, with SmackDown Live. And tonight, they started with a promo by Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, and Roman was not in a good mood. He railed on Sami Zayn, thinking, yo, you know what, Sami? Are you thinking that do you want to be the tribal chief? Do you want to be the head of the table? Do you want to be the new leader of the Bloodline? Well, that prompted Kevin Owens to come out. And Owens is like, you know what? I know what's going on. I know what the problem is. You're angry with me. It's not about Sami. It's always been about me. I've been the thorn in your side. I've been the biggest problema the whole way through. And now you guys are worried because of the fact that, basically I've been in this position, from the very beginning. So what do you want me to say? Well, Roman's like, all right, I don't care about you. You're nothing. You're an idiot. You're a goofball McGundy. What do you want? Roman's like, I'm gonna fight you for the title on the line, and I will become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Well, at the end of the day, they said, fine, it is what it is. Match is on. Let's do it. So, here was the match. Here was the battle. And we're going to get it at the Royal Rumble. So, the Royal Rumble has been announced, and it will indeed be Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship of the world. So, there's really nothing more to add here. We got nothing more to say. Anthony Florio, hell of a way to start off SmackDown with everything that was going on.
And all that news that came out. Oh my word! I mean,
wow. A lot of it was earlier in the day, except for that one about the networks that just broke within the last hour.
NBC, Fox, and Disney. Wow. Yep. Oh boy. If it's Disney, hello ESPN. That's all I can say on that. Maybe even ABC. Who knows if that's the case? But I know that's a story for another day. But like MF said, when it comes to the whole Vince thing, as long as you're doing it from the business side of things, we're good with that. But for the love of God, don't do the creative nonsense. We're not putting up with that BS again. Oh no. So that's all we're saying on that. So if you want to run the business side,
if he had gone back to creative, this company would go down the freaking drain, and it would bring back the infamous Derek rants.
Oh yeah. So, but we'll see what happens. But right now, let's and then of course, Money in the Bank in London. Wow, that's something. So, a pay-per-view event in Jolly Old England for the first time since they did those pay-per-views back in the day, like Rebellion and Insurrection. I mean, that was like 20 or so years ago. So very big for them. That's going to be something. 1st of July. Oh, that's right around 4th of July. It's going to be plenty of fireworks, folks, no doubt. All right. As far as what happened here with this segment here, this was the segment of the night. Great stuff, particularly from Roman Reigns. He repeatedly uttered, "I don't care," but the intensity and ferocity with which he lashed out at Sammy and then KO says differently. It was almost as if the one loss last week, in which he was not even pinned, elicited a sense of desperation in him that caused him to lose his icy cool demeanor and show the cracks fans had not seen in his armor in years. He was paranoid, questioning whether Sammy was coming for his role as the tribal chief, something that bears watching moving on. How long before things keep going wrong and he questions the loyalty of others around him, leading to a potential downfall of the bloodline? KO as the proverbial crap stirrer is always a lot of fun as well. And, Roman also said, that's just something I don't understand because the tribal chief don't lose. It's not in my DNA. It's not in my makeup, which is what he said about the loss to Cena and KO before attributing the loss to Sammy. And he says, the tribal chief calls my shot. I always deliver. And he says, why are you doing things like me? Do you want to be me? Why do you think you can do it? And it seems like the best way for you to take care of that KO problem is in a match at the Royal Rumble for the Undisputed Universal Championship, as KO said. And he said, and Sammy, I'll see you whenever you grab your balls out of Roman's pocket, Owen said, leaving his former best friend with a parting word. And KO and Roman one more time at the Royal Rumble at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio for the Undisputed Universal Championship. If it's anything like that series of matches they had late 2020 into 2021, it's going to be another banger between these two. Let me tell you. I mean, starting with that TLC match at the TLC, and then that Christmas Smackdown when they battled inside the steel cage, and then the last man standing match at the 2021 Royal Rumble, all that in the old Thunderdome. But the big difference is all those matches were in that dinky old Thunderdome. Not this. Oh no. It's going to be in front of a good 50 to 60,000 fans in the legendary Alamo Dome in San Antonio. We didn't have a live crowd. We had that pumped in crowd noise BS and all that, but oh no. Those two in front of a wild and crazy crowd. And this is the third time that they'll be meeting at the Royal Rumble. Well, let's not forget, the last time the Royal Rumble was in the Alamo Dome, which two men battled for that Universal Championship? I wonder. Oh, yeah, it was Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Only difference was KO was the champion, Roman was the challenger, and also Roman was the babyface and KO was the heel. And we also had Chris Jericho hung up in a shark cage. And Michael Bullock and I the night that Mick Foley announced that Jericho was going into the shark cage, and then the whole thing when Jericho was in the shark cage and him screaming Foley, that became a running gag for myself and Michael Bullock because we had such a laugh riot over that. I mean, it was something we'll never forget. But there's your history. So these two have always had great matches, and I don't see why they can't have another one. So to do it in front of a rabid crowd, and who knows, will it top the match we had 6 years ago in 2017? It could, but we'll have to wait and find out. But this was the segment of the night. Very well done. Not much more to say on it. So Michael Bullock, I mean, all that news that MF dropped, and now this amazing promo segment, which was the segment of the night, hands down. And now one more time, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Universal Championship. Third time they're doing it at the Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, what a big day of news. I mean, first off, obviously with the announcement of Money in the Bank going to the O2 Arena in London, England. That's something I'm definitely looking forward to. And then, of course, Vince McMahon coming back to WWE. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh no. I mean, but when I heard that he was part of the board and that Triple H was still going to be running creative and Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan were co-CEOs, I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with it. Just as long as McMahon's not part of creative, because we all remember what it was when Vince McMahon was running creative. It was you had a bunch of bad shows, you had a bunch of campy comedy nonsense, but hey, as long as you keep McMahon away from creative, I got no problem with it. So yeah, as far as this segment goes, like you said, this was definitely the segment of the night. I mean, Roman was, like you said, he was pissed, and he thought Sami Zayn was trying to become the tribal chief, the head of the table, and all that jazz. And yeah, I mean that was something right there, and it prompted KO to come out, and now we got another match between these two for the undisputed Universal title, and it's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. So yeah, so can't wait to see what happens with that. So yeah, this was the segment of the night. So there's really nothing more to say except let's move on.
All right. So with that said, we definitely now move on. First fight of the night: Santos Escobar going one-on-one with Kofi Kingston, and Santos Escobar wins the match in 10 minutes and 1 second. Anthony Florio, it's yours, my friend.
Yes. The rise to relevancy of Legado del Fantasma on Friday nights has been fun to watch. One of the key acts in NXT during their time with that brand, the faction feels like one poised to break out on Friday Night SmackDown in 2023. Santos Escobar is a top-tier in-ring performer, while Zelina Vega she is the most underutilized star in waiting in WWE. In-ring work is never in question, and the group carries itself like a big deal. With creative efforts behind them and a few key victories here and there, do not be surprised to see Escobar and company see their roles expanded and for them to enjoy their greatest success under the WWE umbrella to date here in the new year. And fantastic match and a very solid way to start. I mean, this was easily 3 to 3.25 stars. A great jump off to this show here tonight. And there's nothing left for me to say here except Michael Bullock, this is without a doubt the biggest win of Santos Escobar's young career in WWE, to beat a guy the caliber of a Kofi Kingston, who has made so much history, won every title there is to win, and with all the stuff that he does and all those crazy things that we saw him do to avoid elimination in past Royal Rumble matches, which we'll be doing during our road to Royal Rumble, of course, still to come. But biggest win of Escobar's career right now. I got a feeling it could lead to some even bigger wins down the road this year.
Yeah, I mean this has definitely got to be the biggest win for Santos Escobar since joining the main roster. To beat someone like Kofi Kingston, a former WWE champion, a multi-time tag team champion. I mean, yeah, that is definitely a big time win for him, and maybe I could see a lot more big wins for him in 2023. So I think things are only going to get better for this young man. So 3.25 stars, a great way to start up the matches portion of SmackDown. So Fletch, as I give it to you, I mean, Santos Escobar, I mean, I'm telling you, things are only going to get better for him. I mean, especially when you beat someone like Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. I do agree with that. I think that's a big win for him, no doubt. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out down the line, but it's going to be very interesting to watch. Kofi, and we got to see how this plays out, but ultimately, this is going to be a very interesting situation. And yeah, I don't think there's really much more to add here. So I think they did a really good job. I thought it was a good action. Really nothing more to add. So yeah, now we had was the mixed tag fight, as it was Karrion Kross and Scarlett going up against Emma and Madcap Moss. And in TV time, the winner of the bout in 3 minutes and 29 seconds was Karrion Kross and Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Michael Bullock, you finally got to see Scarlett Probably for the first time, because I don't ever think you've ever seen her in the ring. I have. What did you think of her performance, and more importantly, what did you think of the match?
It was a little too short for my liking. I mean, I wanted to see a little more. I mean, yeah, I mean, Scarlett. I mean, this is my first time seeing her in action, and I mean, I think part of me wants to see a little bit more, obviously because of the match being too short. But I thought she did okay. I'm not gonna say it was anything special to write home about, but if you give it like some more time, I think maybe we could have a chance to see a lot more of what Scarlett could bring to the table. So yeah. As far as the rating goes, I'm only going to give it 1 star for the effort because it was just way too short. Because I really wanted to see more, so I could see what more could Scarlett bring. So there's really nothing more for me to say. It's yours, Fletch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I could probably say that was a solid. It was solid. It was okay. Scarlett being in the ring, she it looks like she has been working. She has been trying to hone her craft a little bit. Emma's a perfect individual to work with in that situation. She's really good in the action more than anything else. So we'll wait and see how it plays out. But yeah, this was pretty good. So solid performance. Nothing more to say. We're gonna have to wait and see how it plays out. But my goodness, Scarlett not bad first time out, and they had the perfect girl with the. So we'll wait and see how it plays out. But yeah, this was wow. Okay for what it's worth. I agree with the 1 star because it was very short. Anthony, I give it to you.
It was 1 to 1.5 for me. I mean, for her first televised in-ring action in WWE, Scarlett looked good in her limited time. She was a touch slower than Emma, who did a fantastic job of helping to guide her, but it was far from a bad first showing. Karrion Kross continued to look very strong, completely outclassing Madcap Moss and putting him to sleep before sending his message loudly and clearly to Rey Mysterio. That match will do wonders in further establishing Kross as a force on SmackDown, while also proving he can work with wrestlers of various backgrounds and styles if fans did not already know that, based on his history in other promotions. I should know. I remember watching him in Impact Wrestling, him and Scarlett. And Kross interrupted a pinfall attempt by Emma and ate a slap for it. Oh, Emma, thank goodness for Madcap, because who knows what Kross would have done to her. And Scarlett sent Emma across the commentary table, eliminating her from the equation. So I'm going to be a little more generous on this one, guys. I'm going to give it 1.5 for the effort. So that's all I can say on that. So, Bullock.
And I want to say one more thing. Karrion Kross and Rey Mysterio. I think that match is going to go down at the Royal Rumble.
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't see them doing it on but then again, we still have a couple weeks. We'll wait and see. If not, then who knows? Maybe they might both be in the Rumble match if we get an interaction there. I don't know, but it is going to happen. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. So in method source.
Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. So after that, we had a promo by the new SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair, interrupted by Sonya Deville. It was a 2-for-1 because it led us to a match. SmackDown Women's title on the line. Charlotte Flair versus Sonya Deville. Charlotte Flair successfully defends the title. 8 minutes and 44 seconds. All right, not bad. All right, the promo itself, not Charlotte's best. She's done better, but I'm not going to be too hard on her. I thought she did an okay job. When it came to the match itself, that was the biggest talking point. I thought they did a really good job. I thought they did a fine job more than anything else. And I really think at the end of the day, I think they did, what they needed it to do. I thought it was a yeoman's job. I thought it was yeoman's work. And I thought, fine for what was worth. As far as the match goes, I could probably say this was about maybe I've got to say about maybe a couple stars, 2.5, because it was 8 minutes and 44 seconds. So we can't be too mad about it. But now the question becomes is that what are they going to do with Charlotte? She's won, she's won the title, so they got to do something about the body of work. We'll wait and see how it plays out. At the end of the day, I thought they did a good job. So nothing more to say. I thought they did a solid job, and that's it. So I got nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours. Charlotte successfully defends the title.
Yep. Promo. I mean, brief exchange. Obviously, it gave way to an impromptu match with the title on the line. The new champion weathered the storm, absorbing everything thrown at her by Sonya before tapping her out to the figure 8 for the successful title defense. Babyface Charlotte is going to take some time to get used to. Let's make that quite clear. Sure, she has been in that role before, but she has been a heel for so long and was so effective as one that the idea of her being this fan favorite all of a sudden seems foreign. Her first chance to leave an impression was fine for what it was, and the use of Sonya Deville as the first heel to step up to her was the right call on the part of WWE Creative. Sonya Deville has a proven track record as a villain, and the crowd responds well to her in that position. The match itself was rather nondescript, but it did not have to be a classic. It did what it intended to, spotlight Charlotte Flair and back up her words. And Charlotte, she said it. I must admit, I never thought I would hear thank you, Charlotte. I may be a lot of things, but there's one thing I'm not: complacent. And Flair laughed at Sonya, saying, I think they think you're a trick, in response to a chant from the WWE universe. But yeah, solid match for what it was. 2.5, 2 3/4 of a star for the effort. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, like I said, babyface Charlotte's going to take some time to get used to because of how damn good she was as a heel. But it's going to take some time to get used to. But we'll wait and see how it works out. But for right now, a first successful title defense against Sonya Deville. Solid match, not overly spectacular. 2.5, 2 3/4.
Yeah, I'll give it about maybe 2.5 to 2 3/4 as well. I mean, it was a solid match here. I mean, the promo was okay. I mean, but this is her first promo since coming back to her first real-time promo since coming back to WWE. And yeah, I mean, babyface Charlotte, I mean, it's going to take some time to get adjusted to, but who knows? With Triple H running creative, I think maybe he could make Charlotte a good babyface. So we'll wait and see how it all plays out. So yeah, there's really nothing more for me to add. So let's move on, Fletch.
All right. With that said, we do move on. The next thing that we had was Top Dollar going one-on-one with Ricochet. This was to determine who is going to the Royal Rumble, who will be a part of the Royal Rumble match. Ricochet wins the match, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And then after the match was over, basically Top Dollar, Shanti the Adonis, and B-Fab basically jumped Ricochet. Thought of something of good faith, then there was a beat down, an attack, and the next thing you know, everything just went crazy. So then Braun Strowman comes out. I mean, we got a lot to talk about there, so we'll see how that plays out. Then that leads us to the main event of the evening, the Usos versus Sheamus and Drew McIntyre for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. When it was all said and done, the winners of the bout in 13 minutes and 34 seconds, and still the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions of the world, the Usos. Anthony Florio, it is all yours. What a wild main event this was.
Indeed it was, MF. But my only My only constructive criticism for this, I felt it got pressed for time. I mean, when you have 4 guys the caliber of the Usos, McIntyre, and Sheamus, this thing should have gone probably in excess of maybe 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy of what we saw a week ago. However, this was the fight of the night, though. I will give it that. It was certainly not a 5-star by any means. However, I will give it 3.5 to 3 3/4 of a star for the effort. Anytime these 4 guys are in the ring and given any sort of time, it is going to be a badass match, and this was no different. Champions and challengers beat the hell out of each other, leading to the Solo Sikoa heavy finish that intensified the rivalry with Drew McIntyre that began back last September at Clash at the Castle and has built steadily since. And you noticed in the backstage area, in the Bloodlines little locker room, I guess you could say, the cuts to Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn backstage were hilarious, and the image of Roman chowing down on popcorn while staring at the television like a kid watching Nickelodeon on a Saturday morning was gold. Let's see more of that. And kudos to the Usos for repeatedly and consistently producing banger after banger after banger every time they are in a position to do so. Zayn and Reigns legitimately ate popcorn, the latter intensely invested in the action playing out before them. McIntyre saved the match, breaking up a pinfall attempt by Jimmy Uso following the 1D to Sheamus. Solo attacked Drew again, keeping their rivalry alive. And the Brawling Brutes, Ridge Holland and Butch, arrived and fought Solo to the back, but too little too late. The champions stay the champions as the Usos, their reign of terror continues. 537 days and counting. And, we'll wait and see what happens. So, we still think it's going to be KO and Sammy who ultimately dethrone them. I still think it goes down at Mania, but, we'll have to wait and see on that. That's still a few months away. So, but for right now, let's just continue to enjoy and revel in the greatness that is the Usos. So, and hey, they were not our tag team of the year for nothing, folks. That's all there is to it. They were not. So with that, 3.5, 3 3/4 of a star. Fight of the night. Not much more to say. Michael Bullock, champions stay the champions. It got pressed for time, but still a very, like MF said, a wild and crazy main event.
Yeah, it did get pressed for time, but in the time it did get, I thought it was a solid main event here. 3.5 to 3 3/4, definitely the fight of the night. I mean, if it got more time, I could have pulled the trigger and given it 4, but still, I mean, it was a solid main event here. I mean, the champs stay the champs, and the Usos continue to prove why they are the most dominant tag team in professional wrestling right now. And like you said, Florio, they weren't our tag team of the year for nothing. And the Usos continue to put on banger after banger of matches, and this year was definitely no different. So I still think the reign of the Usos is going to end at WrestleMania, and I think it's going to be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that put an end to it. So we'll wait and see what happens. So there's really nothing more to say except Fletch, the champs stay the champs.
Incredible main event, great matchup, no doubt about it. This could have been a lot more better, but I'm for it. I can't disagree with anything. So I mean, there's really nothing more to say. So we're just gonna move on along, and yeah, that's it. So overall review, Michael Bullock, it's yours as I get ready for our next thing, which is AEW Rampage.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a solid edition of SmackDown. I mean, you had some good matches. You had some good promos. You had some matches that were short that could have definitely been better. So I'm going to give this about a 7 out of 10 for this edition of SmackDown. So it's your split.
7 out of 10, no doubt about it. You can even make an argument for 7.25. I thought they did a really good job. Solid action. Storyline stuff was pretty good. There was a couple of short fights I wish would have ran a little longer, but all in all, I thought they did an all right job. So really, nothing more to say. Anthony, you got the final say.
7.5 for me. I mean, main event was great. You had a solid women's title match with Charlotte and Sonya. And you also had a nice opener with Kofi and Santos Escobar. And that opening segment was very well done as well. And good bit of storyline progression. We have a new, even though we've seen it at the Rumble before, it's the third time that KO and Roman will be battling for the title. But if it's anything like the previous two, MF, you got a banger on your hands. That's all I'm saying. So even though it's in a promotional, because Roman's technically SmackDown and KO's technically Raw, so we'll see what happens. So 7.5, and now let's get on to a rare live AEW Rampage from the old Veterans Coliseum in Portland, Oregon, the old home of the Blazers.
Yeah, they actually still have it up. I actually saw them using that arena for the Phil Knight Invitational, the college basketball tournament, the preseason basketball tournament that they had. They were using that one. They were using the current arena that they normally do, and I think they were using one of the universities. I think they were using the University of Portland. They were using their gymnasium, and yeah, so it's still there. And we started off with Top Flight, Darius and Dante Martin going up against Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. Moxley and Danielson wins the match in 13 minutes and 30 seconds. I think we can easily say that this is probably going to be the fight of the night. This was an excellent jump off. Very good match, solid action, pretty good for what it was worth. And this is easily 3 to 3.5 stars. There's really nothing more for me to say. Anthony, I'll give it to you.
And that time again?
13:38.
Oh yeah. This was the night on this one. 3.5 to 3 3/4 of a star. The men seemed determined to steal the show before anyone else had a chance to perform. The palm of their hand and chanted throughout most of the bout. Predictably, Bryan got the win, but the Martin brothers did an excellent job keeping up with two of the most experienced performers on the AEW roster. Fun, frenetic opening bout that got the show off to a hot start. And opening with Dante and Darius Martin getting the upper hand really helped get the crowd energized. And what have I been saying to you guys about Dante Martin? This is a young man who I have been beyond high on. And he's a beast. This kid is a beast. And the way he landed on his feet after the Hurricane Rana from the top rope was awesome. What else is there for me to say? So, and I'm expecting big things from him and Darius this year, especially Dante. So not much more to say here. You can most certainly make an argument for fight of the night on this one. 3.5, 3 3/4 of a star. Michael Bullock, the outcome, predictable outcome. Yeah, we all knew that Mox and Bryan were going to win this thing, but give it up for the Martin brothers, man. They gave them fits and then some. My goodness.
Oh yeah, the Dante and Darius Martin definitely gave Moxley and Danielson some fits here, and yeah, I mean the outcome was never in doubt, but Dante and Darius Martin really held their own. They really gave the two of them fits, and what a match this was! 3.5 stars, fight of the night, no doubt about it. So yeah, Moxley and Danielson won, but man, they certainly had their hands full with the Martin brothers. So yeah, so there's really nothing more to say. Let's move on, Fletch.
All right, with that said, we do indeed move on to the next thing that we had here tonight, as it was a women's tag team fight, as it was AEW Women's Champion Jamie Hayter and her friend Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. They went up against the Renegades, Charlotte and Robin. When it was all said and done, it was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter winning the match in 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Anthony, it's yours.
despite playing the heels in this match, women's champion Jamie Hayter and Dr. Britt Baker were over with the crowd. There was a big pop when Dr. Britt's music hit and the DMD chants echoed throughout the bout. Baker scored the win for her team after a decent back and forth match. It's a shame much of it had to take place during the picture-in-picture and commercial break. And it's nice to see a set of twins that make an effort to make it easy for us to tell them apart. And the double suplex from Hayter to both twins at the same time was super impressive. And Baker is so good at playing the crowd like a fiddle. So I'll give this 2.5 to 2 3/4 of a star. So decent showing from the Renegade twins, but Michael Bullock, as I give it to you, once again, outcome was never predictable. But I mean, the outcome was predictable. I mean, we all knew that Hayter and Baker were going to win, but give it up for the Renegades. They gave them just as much fits as the Martins gave to Moxley and Danielson.
Yeah, the Renegades definitely gave Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter some fits here, but the action was, I mean, the outcome was never in doubt. I mean, this was a good, solid match here. I'll give it about maybe 2.5 stars. So Fletch, it is yours.
All right. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
What were we talking about, Fletch? I couldn't hear anything.
I'm sorry. I don't know why it probably cut me off. All right. So Darby Allin versus Mike Bennett. Darby Allin wins the match in 12 minutes and 8 seconds.
Yeah, this was a solid match. I'll give this about maybe 3 1/4, maybe teetering on 3.5. I mean, a solid match here, solid main event to close out this edition of Rampage. And yeah, I mean, this was the second best fight of the night for me. So yeah, the outcome was never a doubt here. So there's really nothing more to say. It's your Fletch.
Very good main event. Very good main event. I was very happy with the way that it went down. Great action all the way through. And for me, much respect to Mike Bennett. Much respect to Darby Allin. Fight of the night. Well, actually, second best fight of the night. And I'll give this at least 3.5 to 3 3/4. Anthony, it's yours.
3 1/4 to 3.5. I'm with Bullock on this one. This was the second best fight of the night for me as well. They started with a solid exchange of textbook holds and counters. And Darby doesn't always show off that he has technical skills, but when he does, he looks pretty good. And both men became more aggressive as the match progressed, so the strikes started to outweigh the wrestling maneuvers after a little while. Both men hit some big moves, but Darby definitely played the underdog like he always does. And this gave Mike Bennett a chance to really show the crowd what he can do when he is in control. And MF, you and I know this because, we know Mike Bennett. You know him a little more than I do because you followed him in Ring of Honor, whereas I followed him in Impact Wrestling. And, multi-time tag team champion and a former X Division champion in Impact. And, of course, he had that brief stint with the WWE that brought Maria back. But anyways, despite the odds being against him, Darby Allin able to earn the win with an Avalanche Code Red, followed by the coffin drop. The pre-match interview was a rare chance for Bennett to shine on the mic. He should get more promo time. He is good. And Bennett is so smooth in the ring. The way he does even the most basic maneuvers makes. And the missile dropkick spot was nuts. So Mike Bennett's first significant leaving Impact Wrestling, when he, Taven, and Maria were all part of Honor No More down there and raised a lot of hell. But anyways, 3 1/4 to 3.5. I agree. Second best fight of the night. That opener was just a smidgen better, to be honest with you. So I believe it's overall review, MF.
It is overall review. Anthony, it's yours.
Oh, all right. You know what? This was not a half bad show. I'm actually gonna give this about 7, maybe 7.5, because I mean that opening match was amazing. The main event, just as good, second best, and then you had a solid women's match. We only had one bad match on this show, which was the squash by Preston Vance. But other than that, one of the better rampages we've had in a while. But then again, it was a live show. It wasn't the tape stuff. And I'm sure we'll be back to reality next week. But hey, this is why I love having live rampages. And you give us more of these, maybe these shows will get better. But this was definitely a good one here. At least 7, maybe 7.5, almost like Smackdown tonight. So not much more to say on this. Michael Bullock, your thoughts on this rare live rampage from Portland?
Yes, I'll give this about maybe 7, 7.5. I mean, one of the better rampages I've seen in a while, obviously because it's a live show. And the only bad match was that Preston Vance squash match. Everything else was solid to even really good. So so there's really nothing more to say. It's yours, Fletch.
Yeah, 7.5. I'm not gonna make too much of an argument on that one. All right, guys. So normally at this point in the night, we would call it and say we're out of here, but we're not. We actually got a little extra stuff that needs to be done. So we got a little housekeeping that needs to be done. And that's coming from the world of the NFL. Yes, guys, we actually do have games coming up this weekend. We started off tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 kickoff from the home of the Raiders from Las Vegas, and it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Las Vegas Raiders. That game will be held from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, and obviously, this is a big one for the sake of the Kansas City Chiefs. If they win this game, this will actually open the door for what could be a very this could be that thing that they would need to get to the line, and Kansas City still fighting for a 1. Obviously, with the recent news that Buffalo and Cincinnati has been canceled, that game is now off the table. This could open the door for KC, but we'll wait and see how it plays out. But more importantly, this is going to be the big matchup. Kansas City is an 8.5-point favorite, with the over-under being at 52.5. And I do believe that when it's all said and done, Kansas City will win this game. They're going to have all their starters out there, so there will be no surprises. I do believe that this will be an easy victory for Kansas City. I just feel like they're going to just dominate over the Raiders. There's really nothing more to add here. So, Anthony Florio, it is all yours. Kansas City, with a win, could all intents and purposes, could lock up the number, will, in all intents and purposes, will lock up the number 1 overall seed. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the home field will be throughout the playoffs because of the new deal that they made. If either Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati, if 2 of those 3 teams face off in the AFC Championship, it's a neutral site game.
Which I gotta admit, fair. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, because there was a lot of outcry.
Agree. Yeah, ditto as well on it. I think it's a fair deal that they made.
Yeah, and of course we all know the reasoning for that. We will most certainly get into that tomorrow night, because we are, for this week only, we're bringing back NFL Saturday due to commitments and other things beyond our control. We couldn't do the show last night. MF had work commitments beyond his control, and I want to let you all in on a little something. I had technical difficulties on my end anyway, so it ended up working out. So But we'll get into more of the reasoning tomorrow night. But let's get into Kansas City and Las Vegas. First half of an ESPN doubleheader. 4:30 kickoff, like MF mentioned, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, and I think Dan Orlovsky's working this game as well, with Laura Rutledge as the sideline reporter. Kansas City opening up as an 8.5-point favorite. Second meeting between these two. They met on a Monday night in week number 5 in Arrowhead, which Kansas City barely won. They won that game by a score of 30-29. So Kansas City now leads the all-time series. They add to their lead. It's now 69-53 with 2 ties. They've won 4 in a row against the Raiders. They won in Las Vegas last year, 41-14. The Raiders' overall last win against KC was 2020. That was in Arrowhead, 40-32. The Raiders last beat the Chiefs at home when they were the Oakland Raiders back in 2017. 31-30. I think that was that wild and crazy Thursday night game that had Jim Nantz and Tony Romo freaking out. But as we all know, because of the craziness that went down near the end of that game. To me, I believe still, in my opinion, it's still to this day the greatest Thursday night football game I've ever seen, and we've ever seen. Right up there with that Green Bay and Detroit Hail Mary, the Rodgers connection that Bullock and I had a lot of fun with back then. But anywho, let's dive it on in. I'm bringing back an old favorite. What to watch for. Time to see if Jarrett Stidham's first ever NFL start against the 49ers' top-rated defense was a one-off now that the Chiefs have game film on him. Stidham will be the first Raider quarterback other than Derek Carr to start against Kansas City since Matt McGloin in 2013, and he's got a pair of high-powered assets to work with. Running back Josh Jacobs has rushed for 1,608 yards and could be the Raiders' first rushing champ since Hall of Famer Marcus Allen in 1985, while receiver Devontae Adams needs 5 catches for his third straight 100-catch season, and he's averaging a career-best 15.2 yards a catch while leading the league with 14 touchdowns. Bold prediction, Patrick Mahomes and Stidham will combine to throw for more than 700 yards. The Chiefs and Raiders feature 2 of the NFL's worst pass defenses, tied for 30th in opposing QBR at 55. Both teams are also in the bottom 10 in opponent completion percentage and touchdown to interception rate. To know, Travis Kelce is 1 receiving touchdown shy of becoming the first tight end with 10,000 receiving yards and 70 receiving touchdowns within their first 10 years. And here's a new one for you. What's at stake? The Chiefs have already secured the AFC West division title, and they can lock up the number 1 seed in the FC with a win here or a loss by the Buffalo Bills against the New England Patriots on Sunday. The Raiders have been eliminated and are projected to land the number 7 draft pick in April. The betting nugget, Kansas City is 4-10 against the spread as a road favorite of at least 7 points under Andy Reid, 4-8 against the spread with Mahomes, including 5 straight against the spread losses. FPI loves Kansas City, 90% going with Kansas City. I have to go with Kansas City as well. I say they win this game, lock up the number 1 seed. My final score, I'm going to say 31-24. Kansas City survives Vegas. Vegas is going to give them fits, just like they gave the Niners. We all thought with Stidham, we thought, oh, Niners are going to kill him. No, the Raiders almost knocked off the Niners. So we'll see what happens here. But I got KC winning 31-24. They'll get the number 1 seed, much to my dismay, but it is what it is. So not much more to say on that. So Michael Bullock, Kansas City and Las Vegas, first half of that NFL doubleheader. And let's be realistic. This is going to be the most emotionally charged NFL weekend, maybe of all time, especially after that scary scene on Monday night. And but KC in Vegas, it's when it comes to our side of the ledger, it's our number 4 game of the week. Kansas City wins, number 1 seed, regardless of what Buffalo does. But if they lose, oh boy, our Patriot Bills game gets even more high stakes.
Oh yeah, but like you said, we gotta wait and see what happens with that. But anyhow, I mean, like you said, this is going to be an emotional weekend in the NFL for the final week of the regular season, and kicking it off with the Raiders and the Chiefs, and Chiefs win. They get the number 1 seed. So, but in the end, I think they're going to get the job done here. I mean, there's too much at stake for them, and I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win and wrap up the number 1 overall seed. So, nothing more to say. Fletch, it's yours.
All right. And now we turn our attention to the AFC South and the division title on the line. A champion will be crowned under the lights Saturday night, and it is the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. TIAA Bank Field, Jacksonville, Florida, home of AEW. The Khan family hoping that they will complete the big run. Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jacksonville Jaguars tries to capture the AFC South. Standing in their way is the Tennessee Titans. Anthony Florio, the Jaguars are a 6-point favorite. Can they do it? Can they complete the comeback? Will they capture the division? It is yours.
And let's not forget, MF, this is our game of the week. This is it right here. Of course, during the regular season and all that, we usually go by the records. But when it comes to the final week, we go by implications. And this is, without a doubt, when it comes to the AFC, the biggest implications right here, because this is winner take all. Winner gets the AFC South regardless of what happens. It will be it's an 8:15 kickoff, the second half of the ESPC doubleheader. Both of these games will be simulcast on ESPN and ABC, mind you. When it comes to Tennessee and Jacksonville from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, of course, this is where the Monday Night Football crew comes in. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters, fresh off that emotional scene they had in Cincinnati Monday night. Jacksonville opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. And, of course, obviously with all these games are divisional games in week number 18. And which means all these games are second meetings. And these teams just met a few weeks ago in Nashville, and Jacksonville won that game by a score of 36-22. And they cut into Tennessee's all-time series lead. Tennessee now leads the all-time series 33-22. And Jacksonville snapped a 5-game losing streak to Tennessee with that win in Nashville. They last beat Tennessee at home in Jacksonville in 2019. That was a 20-7 final, but Tennessee's won the last 2 meetings in Jacksonville. So get that out of the way. So here we go. What to watch for? The winner takes the AFC South title, while the loser almost certainly misses the playoffs. The teams are streaking in opposite directions. The Jags have won 4 in a row, and the Titans have lost 6 straight. The Titans are starting journeyman quarterback Joshua Dobbs, while the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence, who leads the league in completion percentage since November began. The Titans have not scored more than 14 points in their last 3 games, while the Jaguars have only given up 6 combined points in their last 2 games. It seems like an easy Jaguar victory, but the Jags have not swept the season series with the Titans since 2005. Bold prediction, the Titans will score at least 24 points, as he has only broken the 20-point mark once during its 6-game losing streak. The Jaguars have over the last 3 weeks, but Dobbs will bring balance to the offense by passing for 250 yards, while Derrick Henry will have a 150-yard rushing performance. Stat to know, Trevor Lawrence needs 99 yards to become the third 4,000-yard passer in Jaguars history. The other 2, Mark Brunell in 1996 and Blake Bortles in 2015. What's at stake? It's winning in for both teams. The winner of this game wins the AFC South, but while the Titans would be eliminated with a loss, the Jaguars can still make the playoffs if they fail to win tomorrow night. Jacksonville would need losses from New England against Buffalo, Miami against the Jets, and Pittsburgh against Cleveland. Betting nugget, Tennessee is 0-5-1 against the spread in its last 6 games. 10 of Tennessee's past 13 games have gone under the total, including 3 straight. The FPI loves Jacksonville in this one, 85% with the Jags. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. With the way Jacksonville's been playing, with the way both of these teams have been playing, Tennessee on the decline. Jacksonville wins, and you know what? I'm gonna make it a bold prediction of my own, and I say Jacksonville's gonna wipe the floor with these guys. They're gonna blow them out. 31-7. Jacksonville all over Tennessee. Jacksonville wins the South. Not much more to say. Michael Bullock, if this is indeed the case, what could have been for the Tennessee Titans starting 7-3 and to close out, possibly losing 7 in a row to close it out? Yikes.
Yeah, this would be a bad look for Tennessee and for head coach Mike Vrabel if this happens. And unfortunately, I see it happening because I too have the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this one. I mean, what a run this team has been on. I mean, with the way they were playing, I mean, it looked like it was going to be another lost season for them, but Doug Peterson has done it again. I mean, he has a team on the verge of making the playoffs. I mean, especially after with what he did for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, and I see this run continuing for them. So, I'm with you. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the AFC South. So, there's really nothing more to say except, Fletch, it is yours.
I'm in agreement with you guys. Jacksonville will win the AFC South. They've been the hottest team coming in. They've been playing so good. They've been playing great lately. And I now believe that they will get the job done, and that should be enough for them to capture the AFC. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to add here. One last bit of business to conduct, and it is the main event of the evening. Gentlemen, it is the big one. The college football playoff national championship will be on the line on Monday night from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, and it will be the number 1 team in all the land, the reigning, defending, undisputed, undefeated college football national champions, the Maiden Georgia Bulldogs, and they go up against a scrappy, fighting, representing the Big 12, the Horned Frogs of Texas Christian University, TCU. We know how this happened. The 2 greatest semifinal games we've ever seen in the history of the CFP. TCU outlasting, just barely scraping by over Michigan in a great Fiesta Bowl semifinal, and then right at the stroke of midnight to get us into 2023, Ohio State missing a field goal at the gate. Anthony Florio losing his mind, screaming Anthony Florio moment, ladies and gentlemen, as he yells, Georgia survives. And they did indeed survive, beating Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. Now they face off for the national championship. There's nothing more to say. It is Chris Fowler. It is Kirk Street. It is Holly Rowe doing the play-by-play.
And Molly McGrath as well.
And Molly McGrath. Yep, she's been added to the crew. And it is Georgia. Double-digit favorites. 12.5 points with the over-under at 63. I don't know, boys. If you've seen the last 2 games, that 63 might be a little low. But we'll wait and see how it plays out. Michael Bullock, front and center. You lead off on the main event of the evening. Who's hoisting that trophy? Who's number one? Who's going to be the national champion?
Man, this is tough for me. I mean, I know it's an easy thing to say that Georgia's going to win it, but after what we saw from TCU, especially with what they did against Michigan, it's just hard for me to imagine that Georgia's going to think that this is going to be an easy game, because I'll tell you this right now. Texas Christian, TCU, is definitely going to give the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs some fits. I mean, this is without a doubt the biggest moment in the history of the school. I mean, they've had some big time moments before, but if TCU somehow wins the national championship, this will, without a shadow of a doubt, be the biggest moment in the history of that school from any of the sports they've played. I mean, just think of some of the names that have come out of that school. I mean, and one in particular, LaDainian Tomlinson. So Georgia has a chance to repeat as national champions, and it would be the first time since Alabama has done it. So, man, this is tough, but I'm going to go with the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs to do it. I think they're going to repeat as national champions, but by golly, I think TCU is definitely going to give them one hell of a fight here. So there's nothing more to say, Fletch. It is yours.
Here's the craziest thing about this game. Georgia didn't even play their best game, and they still beat Ohio State. And a lot of fans out there was saying that Michigan should have been in the final if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. 2 pick sixes, maybe a couple of controversial calls from the referees. I know I was definitely harping hard about 2 calls that went against Michigan where I flipped a lid. And yeah, I'll openly admit it, I kind of did go on a rant, and it was not a good rant. It was profanity-laced and everything else. But I did it behind the scenes, and I did it with Anthony Florio and with Michael Bullock. I never expressed it out in the ether, as they would say. I did it privately with the boys, and I really voiced my displeasure. TCU is a very good team. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to fight. They're going to give a lot of problems to Georgia. There's no doubt. But the thing is, I think Georgia felt embarrassed. I think they got humbled because they finally faced a team that really pushed them to the limit, and that was Ohio State. And regardless of what anybody says, Ohio State proved they deserved to be in that number 4 spot. They played probably one of their best games all year. Just for them to lose it the way they did was a hard loss. So there's nothing more to say. It's going to be a great game. But I don't think Georgia's going to let this moment get away. And that's the thing. I think Georgia realized we made a mistake. We did some things that we should have done better. And they are going to take it out on TCU. I think they learned their lesson not to mess around, not to goof off, and not to try to play behind like they did against Ohio State, because Ohio State jumped them early and Georgia came back. I think what it needs to be done is that if you're TCU, you got to play it like the Michigan game. Jump out early on Georgia. Make them have to force to win this game through the air, everything else. doing that air raid that they were doing against Michigan. If you're Georgia, you got to come out more stronger. You got to come out more physical. Because I kind of felt like they got bullied around early, but then in the second half, they were the aggressors. They started bullying. So it's got to be one of those type of situations. At the end of the night, I don't think it. As much as I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's TCU," I don't see it. I don't. And I believe Georgia will cement their place as the next big juggernaut in college football. They're going to go back to back. They win the national championship yet again. Winners and still the college football national champions, the Maiden Georgia Bulldogs. Anthony Florio, you normally set it up. I'm about to do it. We are just about ready to go for the national championship game. Homie, it is yours.
I'm gonna do that thing. I'm gonna do that thing you like there, MF. Like you do it with me. You know, when I set you up. But this is it. This is ours right here, folks. The College Football Playoff National Championship, Monday night, 8:00, and yeah, Georgia beat number 4 Ohio State 42-41 in the CFP semifinals at the Peach Bowl. Bulldogs quarterback Stetson Bennett bolstered his big game reputation with a fourth quarter comeback. The Bulldogs now have a chance to win back-to-back national championships under Coach Kirby Smart and become the first repeat champions of the CFP era. Their loaded roster is full of All-Americans led by defensive tackle Jalen Carter. TCU beat number 2 Michigan 51-45 in the other CFP semifinal at the Fiesta Bowl. The Horned Frogs had 200-1 odds to reach the playoff before the season started. They now have a chance to become the first Big 12 school to win the national championship since Oklahoma in 2000. First-year coach Sonny Dykes has worked wonders with an offense led by quarterback Max Duggan. TCU averages 41.1 points a game. Thorpe Award winner Trevius Hodges Tomlinson leads the defense. Georgia is 4-0 in the all-time series against TCU. That record includes a Bulldogs win in the Liberty Bowl in 2016, Smart's first season. The stakes are so much higher this time. The 12.5 to 13-point spread for Georgia, largest championship game line in the 9-year history of the college football playoff. 4 of Georgia's last 6 games have hit the over. 4 of TCU's last 6 games have hit the under. Monitor how that line fluctuates leading up to kickoff. Georgia is 5-0 against the spread this season when favored by 20 points or fewer, and they are 3-1 against ranked opponent. 3-1 against the spread against ranked opponents. Georgia averaged 42 points a game in those ranked games, including the shootout with Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. TCU is 3-0 straight up as an underdog this season, with the victories over marquee programs Oklahoma, Texas, and Michigan. The Hornets won in games decided by 8 points or fewer, with the lone loss coming to Kansas State 31-28 in overtime in the Big 12 championship game last month. Georgia is 7-1 straight up and 6-2 against the spread in neutral site games the last 2 seasons. The 3 things to watch: number 1, veteran quarterbacks. Bennett and Duggan were Heisman Trophy finalists this season and both delivered in the CFP semifinals. Bennett has been on point against ranked teams, and he added to that trend with 398 yards and 3 touchdowns against Ohio State. In 3 CFP games, Bennett has averaged close to 312 passing yards while throwing 8 touchdowns to only 1 interception. How will he attack a TCU secondary led by Hodges Tomlinson? The Horned Frogs are opportunistic, but also prone to giving up big plays. Duggan, meanwhile, is a do-it-all wonder, and he's working with Quentin Johnston. Can TCU's offensive line hold up long enough to give him time against the Georgia secondary that has allowed 450 yards a game the last 2 games? Number 2, Georgia versus the 3 to 3.5. The 3 to 3 and 5. TCU's run defense stood up against Michigan, and D. Winters was a factor. The Bulldogs have a methodical rushing attack with Dajuan Edwards, Kenny McIntosh, and Kendall Milton, but they had to get away from it after being forced into catch-up mode against the Buckeyes. If that running game is working, then Georgia will be content to control the clock and set up play action with Bennett. Will the Horned Frogs counter with run blitzes under Joe Gillespie? TCU cannot let Georgia bully them on the ground. And number 3 is Cinderella or Horned Frog. Georgia is the heavy favorite in this game, but TCU has been comfortable playing close games all season. Kendre Miller left the Michigan game, but backup running back Amari DiMercado rushed for 150 yards in his place. TCU must have a running game to complement the passing attack. Expect Duggan to get more carries in this game. If the Horned Frogs make this a 4-quarter game, then that means TCU succeeded in turning it into a Big 12 type shootout and took Georgia out of its comfort zone. Stat that matters, the Horned Frogs scored every time they reached the red zone against the Wolverines, and they have to score TDs against the Bulldogs. Georgia's offense led the FBS with a .972 red zone scoring percentage coming into the semifinals, and coordinator Todd Monken is an excellent play caller inside the 20. Georgia is going to move the ball. Can TCU force field goals, especially in the first half? In the 8 years of the CFP championship, the winning team has averaged close to 40 points a game. The loser has averaged 22. Which team will get to 40 points first in this year's game? After the prediction, after the high-scoring semifinals, any over looks easy, right? Look for TCU to let loose early, but the pressure will be on TCU offensive coordinator Garrett Riley to protect Max Duggan from what is sure to be an aggressive Georgia pass rush. Can TCU win that battle consistently? Allowed Ladd McConkey and Darnell Washington to heal from injuries. Look for Bennett to spread the wealth. Arian Smith broke out with 3 catches for 129 yards. He and Brock Bowers will catch TDs. The Bulldogs will jump out to an early lead in the first half, and the running game will wear on the Horned Frogs in the second half. Georgia captures a second straight championship and starts off 2023 in the number 1 spot, looking for a three-peat next season. Close game into the fourth, but I say Georgia puts it away with a late score. Georgia wins it. The winners and still champions, the Made in Georgia Bulldogs. Final score for me, 41-27, the Made in Georgia Bulldogs. Again. But MF, as you know how much I love underdog stories. And I would love to see TCU, defy the odds like Georgia did against Bama last year. And they could. They really could. But let's be realistic. Georgia is now the new powerhouse, and a win here puts them one step closer to becoming college football's next great dynasty. Most recent being, of course, Bama, of course. So 41-27, Georgia will win the night. They will successfully defend their college football playoff national championship from last year. It's going to be a great game. MF, I can't wait to do it with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if this game is anything like those semifinal games, expect a lot more. Expect many more screaming Anthony Florio moments like we had last week. So 41-27, Georgia. MF, let's take it home.
So we are done for tonight. Tomorrow night, we will have a very special edition of NFL Saturday. We will recap the Kansas City versus Raiders. We will talk about we maybe even do live commentary. We don't know. The Jaguars versus the Titans, and then of course all of the Week 18 action, playoff implications. So much to talk about. 10:30 Eastern. Anthony Floyo will be hosting it. And guys, we're out of here. So have a wonderful evening. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Goodbye.